Briefly, I've been writing for about 20 years, mainly nonfiction. About 5 years ago, my first novel came out, Hate. Last year, I've got a story in Dragons Composed. Then my next book just went to the publisher, and it's going to be coming out in about a month and a half, called Interviews from the Ark. I do have strong women in both of these books. This one has nothing to do with human women, so it has nothing to do with it at all. Now,
but it does have others.
Talking about stupid wenches or backstabbing spies.
Oh,
First of all,
you got it right. You got it right.
Okay. Well, now it's interesting because I noticed this is titled with the two sides, right? Stupid wenches, backstabbing spies. Let me put it out there. First of all, why is it that we feel the need to do either one? Whatever happened to women who just happen to be women and maybe, cook but can kick your butt too? Something like that.
You always had like the femme fatales, in this, you have the spy, the superhero spy, James Bond, you always had the female, adversary.
Girls.
Okay. Yeah, and I will ask, because we've got a lot of people here, is if somebody else is talking, please don't try to talk over, because we all want to hear, everybody here has some really good stuff to say, and I want to hear it because I'm going to learn from you guys. But, so just raise your hand, and I promise I will be looking for hands and trying to, okay, in the back. Yes, sir.
Well, I'll point out that this is not universally true, and I'll give the example of Trinity in the Matrix movies. So right there we have a strong woman who's neither a wench nor a backstabbing spy.
I'm sorry.
Now this is Elizabeth, normally
I'm sorry. I think it's just this two hotel thing.
Oh, yeah.
I am wearing a track between them.
Elizabeth, I noticed it was your mail. I was like, sweet, gotta go. And then I looked over, I was like, oh, she's already left. Cool, I'll go ahead.
I think there's a time vortex between the two hotels that is swallowing me up each time.
Okay, hold your thought, because I definitely want to come back to you, okay?
Yes, please.
While Elizabeth's getting herself together, the question here is, why do we feel that there's a need to do either or? Why wench or...
Because Shane Moore was going to be on this panel.
Well, that's okay. There you go. Now we have the answer. Now, for the rest of us, you were saying something, sir.
I was saying that as an example of a woman in science fiction who is neither of these two extremes, there's Trinity in the Matrix movies, who is a very strong woman, who is not a bimbo, and who is not a backstabbing femme fatale spy. She's almost as major a hero as the main character is. So, right, and she brought him. She was strong before he was. So, right there is an example of somebody who doesn't fit this mold.
Good point, Sue.
I met my first science fiction in comics, and what I had in front of me was Dale Arden, who faints and is your typical white whim, and Wilma Deeren, who is not a backstabbing spy. She just does things. She knows more than Buck Rogers. She is not necessarily smarter, but she has more information than he, and they have an equal relationship. And this set the pattern for me. This is what I began to look for in the daily comics.
Makes sense. Yes.
I've noticed on what you were saying, it seems like you get one main female, one main male, and the main female is almost always a strong, and then every other female in the book is always
there's that.
Yes. You always have one perfect, strong female. It's a great character. It balances out the male character. But then everybody else, like with the Matrix, you get that. But then you also get, for the most part, if it's any female in any story that's a bigger part, that's when you start getting wait a minute, why are all the backstabbing people in the book all female?
I don't know the names of the other characters as well, but there was the two women who were involved in the resistance when they were being invaded in the second and third movie. Who were also
I kind of blocked those movies out.
Wait, there was a second and third movie? They didn't have many big women characters aside from Trinity. Everybody else was male.
Okay, we comment right here.
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, I kind of take issue with the whole backstabbing, because just because it is, like you said, doing an evil feminine is easy sometimes, but there are so many good ones now that we're seeing, like Covert Affairs and Alias and those kind of things. And I also wanted to comment on the thing that do you think making a strong female makes her lose her femininity?
They like to play it that way, but I think the part that bothers me the most about this dichotomy of the helpless fainting wench or the evil one that can kill you with her pinky, but she is truly evil and will kill you with your pinky, is that it reduces women into a plot device. Yes. They exist in order to be rescued, or they exist in order to maneuver the hero into whatever situation the writer wants. It's a woman as an object to be moved around the stage of the plot instead of being a character. And they can do this to male characters too, but women, in science fiction and fantasy, it's frequently women that receive this treatment. I used to do freelance editing and helping unpublished authors finish their manuscripts and work them into something they could try to sell. And I saw so many of these where there's this dashing hero doing this, that, and the other thing, and there's the woman that he's rescuing or the woman he's doing it to impress or whatever, but she's never a person. She's an object that doesn't have any motivation of her own, doesn't have any personality of her own. And I think that's a trap that it's not as bad as it used to be, God knows. I was talking about this today with someone, not even you, about when I was about 12 years old, I started reading Gone with the Wind over and over and over again. A 1,000-page book, finished it, started back to the beginning and read it again. My parents started to worry about me. They started shoving up, there are other books, but I think my fascination with it, that lasted about a year and a half, was because it was the first book I'd read that had a woman doing something that wasn't about her being rescued or about her, Nancy Drew was always getting captured by the bad guys after she was very bright, she solved the mystery, and then when they captured her, she'd say, I heard everything you said and you're going to jail, now let me go, instead of, no habla inglés, not very smart.
Yes, sir.
I'm reminded of and I forget the name of it, but it's kind of a recent thing. Someone came up on the internet and it was a test.
The Bechdel test.
Yes.
Yes, the Bechdel test.
Yes, if you have two female characters in any work that talk to each other, not about men.
Well, there's an interesting thing about the Bechdel test, though. Yeah, they have to be at least two female characters that talk to each other about something that's not a man. On the other hand, Terminator 2 fails this. If you think about it. Now, technically, yes, she talks to the female guard, but it's about her having a syringe full of cleaning fluid in the neck of a male hostage. And later, she talks to, what's her name, the wife of Miles Dyson, about not shooting her husband. In both cases, when Sarah talks to a woman, she's talking about a man. Granted, I don't think anyone would say that Sarah Connor was a weak female character. Not if they want to keep their teeth. But, so, there's and the Bechdel test, is not intended to say that these movies are, this movie is better or worse than other movies, because movies can fail the Bechdel test and still be very good movies. However, the fact that so many books, movies, and TV shows utterly fail Bechdel is an indication to us how far we have to go for real parity in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. There's like 19 hands now. I should shut up.
The origin of it. I mean, most of the stuff originally written was for men, or men wrote it, so they would be writing the male as the hero and the female as the the enemy or the victim.
Well, I always felt that was a lack of creativity on their part, but that could be just from my perspective.
Yes.
But if you look at old school female written science fiction, Andre Norton comes immediately to mind. She often fails the Bechdel test.
You're right. Yes.
But she was writing for preteen boys.
Yes, she was.
But often, not always.
But her later stuff got better. But recently I went to Uncle Hugo's and bought all my back Andre Norton because I'm going to fulfill the collection. And I started reading them and going, ow, why did I think this was good?
Exactly.
Because it was the first one you met where there was any chase, such. But you can go older than that. Leigh Brackett wrote strong women. C.L. Moore wrote strong women. They also wrote strong men, sometimes in the same stories, sometimes in different ones.
Yes, sir.
Another example of one that does not fail this test, Aliens 2, Ripley and Vasquez.
Yes.
Tell me either one of them is not a strong woman and
Well, Anne Vasquez and her, I can't remember her name. What's the helicopter pilot in Aliens? 2 points to anyone who can name that character. But they have some wonderful conversations. They're clearly good friends. And when the alien comes leaping into her cockpit, hand to the gun. She does not sit there and scream. She grabs for her gun. She's not fast enough, but none of us would be.
Okay, I saw some. Yes.
There are more hands.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
One of the reasons I hate Lost in Space was, okay, we had the mother. What was her? Well, anyway, she was hanging with a gun. There was episode, one of the stupider episodes where Dr. Smith and the robot changed minds one to the other. More like the robot had his personality, and the robots were coming, and the father ordered all three female characters into the spaceship, while Will Robinson, younger than, I think it was like 9 of the 10 in the story, he was out there with the guys. That was just plain.
That's the time period. I know that. One of the most insulting episodes of Star Trek, the original, was you all know what I'm talking about. When Kirk changes minds with his crazy ex-girlfriend, and clearly she's just far too unbalanced to become to be DS. Of course, it could have been the fact that she was flipping nuts in the first place.
I've had that ex-girlfriend.
Well, I've never had that ex-girlfriend, but
you had it. Your friend had it, and
there you go.
Okay, yes, young lady in red.
Actually, I've never heard of the Baxel test, but where would Xena and Gabrielle throw in between there? Or do you think they desexualized them because of that?
I think they were too sexualized for that. Yeah,
that was.
Exactly.
Because they got too strong, and then suddenly they threw in the.
Exactly. Okay, we got some. Okay.
I was going to say, I find it fascinating that the Scream King icon can become the competent character later on. Elizabeth Sladen in the Doctor Who series was originally young and immature, and basically she was there to scream. And now she's got her own series.
There you go. It shows it says, yes, back in the back. Yes, sir.
Yes, one of the things, science fiction has no excuse for women being in a secondary role. Fantasy does have an excuse in that most of it is based on Western European culture in the Middle Ages. That's usually pretty heavily what they rely on in various permutations.
Yeah.
Any woman who had power in those days had to be awfully ruthless, because that was the only way a woman could have power in a male-dominated culture.
Depending on which culture they're riffing off of. Right. They're riffing off of. I forgot the name.
Well, the Spanish managed to do really well. The Sephardic Jews did really well.
One at a time, guys. We can all hear you. Hold it. Okay, you had said the Spanish.
There are a couple of medieval accounts of women, because the men were all off doing other things, defending their towns, defending castles. Running things. One of the things, I happen to study medieval child rearing, and so in noble households, it was your mother who taught you swordplay until you were fostered out. And there are, in some places and in some times, so the fantasy trope that women didn't do anything and didn't know how to do swords, based on a medieval ethos, is a not particularly accurate perspective of that medieval ethos.
Well, and understandable, but I think what you're saying is these were the ideas and the myths that were out there. So you're right. I mean, Isabella went to war pregnant with a breastplate on. Okay, so I mean, do you want to meet Isabella in full regalia and she's pissed off and pregnant, I would think so, you know. So you're absolutely, so you both have a handle on that. Yes, sir. You had something.